Hello everyone, we should be live now and we can continue our journey in game dev after a weekend where I enjoyed a bit of Ashes of Creation. The Alpha 2 is now open, so enjoyed that a bit. Hope your weekends went well, that you enjoyed friends and family maybe. So we left off the last week with a character controller that seems to work approximately. I did play around with it this weekend a little bit to investigate what was my issues, and I found several, so I will fix them with you right now. Let me open the chat in case someone is speaking. Okay. Put that here. Okay. Hello Nubas. How are you? How was your weekend? Okay. So, demonstrating the first issue. Let's put like a big time to actually reach maximum speed. And if I enter play mode already, as you can see, the character moves very, very fast. Instantly, so fast that probably way out of bounds. On the server, it's at 40. Let's pause. 46. And on the client, we are at 209. So we are not moving at the same rate on the server and on the client. So that's our first issue. And that comes from two main issues. Is that this Verlet component has a position that is not actually synced over the network. So whenever there is a rollback and resimulation of the entity, I'm not resetting this value, I think. And I'm not simulating based on the actual position of the entity. So yeah, weekend was nice. Like I said, there was Ashes of Creation that released or opened, or opening the Alpha 2 of Ashes of Creation on weekends. So I played a bit of that. I should say tested, because it's not a full game yet, but it's already in a good state for an alpha, I think. So the first thing I want to try to fix in my simulation is the Verlet position. So my Verlet position is not synchronized over the network because this is not considered a ghost component. So for it to be a ghost component, I don't actually need to put the ghost component. That's for more options. What is really necessary is to have a ghost field. So if I apply a ghost field on the position, we'll see what happens. And I need to restart the play mode. I also managed to make hot reload work, but it's limited to a few use cases. As soon as you add an attribute or something like that, it needs to recompile. So until we have a proper setup and try to do a lot of the code within the method itself, it won't help us a lot. So if I now synchronize the target, and I have two player prefabs because I have another client that is connected actually. So if I move this one, let's say, as you can see, we are now moving in sync, almost. Let's pause. On the server, so this one is the one that did not move. This one is at 31, and on the client, 31 also. But I'm not synchronizing like the velocity and acceleration because these two are not synchronized over the network. They are not marked with ghost field attribute, and they are even set to 0 on this client because it's not the owning client. If I was on the owning client, I would have the same value, or hopefully the same value as the server, but maybe not. So let's try to move this one a bit. So it's going away. It's still bugged. On the server, we have 15.4 and -0.4. And on the client, we have 16. So there is a bit of this discrepancy, 1.5 and -0.5. So we are close, but not identical. And that doesn't solve my issue of the character. So if I continue, it's still going away. So there is some other stuff to fix. One other thing I need to fix in my movement system, I completely screwed up the limitation of the velocity because I thought that the clamp was the same as the vector 3 dot clamp magnitude, which is the one I want, but there is no equivalent in math, so I will need to do it myself. So let's actually write it. So how will I do that? I have my new velocity, so I will compute the length squared, so I can do if this math. Length squared of this one is above the max velocity squared. Oops. In that case, what I need to do is, so if it's above my maximum velocity, basically, I need to set the new velocity to be the normalize of the velocity times the maximum speed. Not the square of the maximum speed, the maximum speed. So this one will clamp my velocity to the maximum velocity. I will also try and put an else if, and if my square length, so square velocity magnitude if this one is below the square of epsilon, square epsilon. In that case, I want to zero out the velocity. So what's 3.0. So it avoids having at the end when I stop, I want to avoid having a remaining small velocity and be bouncing between going forward and backward with the acceleration computation. So that should take care of that, and otherwise I don't actually need to change it. This one will be good. So the maximum velocity is in fact what I'm computing here, so I don't need it anymore, and I don't need this line. Okay, and one thing I wanted to do also here, I'm computing the half step in step 2, but in fact it's not used before step 4, so I will move this one here to compute the final velocity, and this one will be reused later for collision response. So I will handle the collision response at this stage. So right after the update of the position, I will check that I can get to that new position basically. So let's try this and see what happens. I think there is still something I need to update. I hope the music is working here. Okay, so I can't move back apparently, so I still have something to correct. And where are my characters on the server? Oh, and the second client? That's strange. Start again. Okay, so my characters are there. I don't know why they didn't appear in the earlier stage. Actually, let's debug it like that. Let's pause the game, and on the server I will set the horizontal to 1 and step forward. Nothing happened. Do I need to set it on the client for it to work? Max speed 5, time to max speed 10 seconds, and my input. Yeah. Oh, it's not working like that. Okay, never mind. Let's do from the server side the first one, I think. So if I move forward, okay, so now it's moving very slowly, which is to be expected since I want to reach a small velocity in a very long time. But it's very, very jittery, as you can see. And that's because I'm not synchronizing all the state of my velocity verlet. Actually, I need to synchronize position and velocity, at least, and maybe even acceleration, but I think I can get away without changing the synchronizing the acceleration. So let's go back to our component the verlet component and say that we want to synchronize also the velocity. The issue here is that by synchronizing the position and velocity, I'm increasing the bandwidth that I require. So the more player I have, the more costly it will become because I'm synchronizing more data. And actually, the position of the entity itself is already synchronized by default. So I could just reuse, so not synchronize this position, but instead in the system say that my verlet position before I start the simulation is equal to my transform position. Sorry. So that when I do my simulation, I'm basically starting the simulation from the actual position of the entity. So that should give me something a little bit smoother. So let's recompile again. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so it's moving. It's not jittery. It's still very slow because of the parameter I've set. And if I look at the other client, I am moving in sync between the two clients, so that's good. So let's actually restart this, but giving a little bit more reactiveness. So let's say I want to reach the max velocity in 0.5 seconds. So we'll check if we are indeed maxing out the velocity. Let's try with just forward. Okay, we are capping the velocity at 5, so that's good. And the character is still moving smoothly. Is it still moving smoothly on the other client? Yes, there is no particular jitter, but it's very, very difficult to control because there is basically no drag or no reorientation of the velocity. So that's one thing I want to add also. So I will add in the locomotion parameters sharpness or float movement and sharpness. Okay, let's put a range for that between 0 and 1 floats. And let's write a tooltip to explain a bit what it means. So basically 0, that means that none of the velocity will be projected on the movement direction. And we can go on in the line and say that 1 none of all the velocity will be redirected towards the layer input. We use two different terminology. Hopefully one of them makes sense to anyone. And to do that, in the movement system, in the verlet step, I want to reorient this velocity. And to do that, basically, I will compute the length so the reoriented velocity, so reoriented velocity along movement direction, call it like that. It's a long name, but it's explicit, at least. Movement direction. And we want to have the length of the velocity. Length of the velocity half step times the direction, so the new input, this one. This one is a float 2. I need the float 3 version. So let's extract this. Var input direction. And direction should only be the normalized version, but probably want to clamp this to 1, but still allow for variable length of the input, so that the player could have fine control over the speed of the character or acceleration. So let's leave input direction for now, like that. I can reuse it here. And I want to use it here. So this one will be the length of my velocity times my direction, normalized direction. Normalized direction, and for it to be safe, I need to check that float 3.0 equals that I do have an input, basically. If there is no input, I don't want to reorient the velocity anyway. And for that, so for the reorientation, I want to basically blend between the two based on the local parameter movement sharpness. So if the sharpness is 1, I want to have the full velocity along the movement direction. So can do 1 times this plus 1 minus the sharpness parameter multiplied by the half velocity, the half step velocity. So if sharpness is 1, I will only get this one, because this one will be 1 minus 1, 0, so I won't get this. And the other way around, if it's 0, I will get none of this and all of the initial computed velocity. So that's fine. And the new velocity will be computed by that. It's okay. So normally, this should give me the control I want over how slippery, let's say, the character is. If you have any suggestion for the naming of this stuff in the authoring component, if you have, I don't know, a term or something that is more clear for you, or clearer for you, please suggest it, because I'm going with the idea I have, but okay. Okay, so now it's much more reactive, and I can even move from one direction into the other directly without any slippage on the character. So that's fine. Does it work on the other client? Let's check. Oops. Okay, that seems to be smooth and active enough. Okay. And where are we at for our quests? So the maximum speed, we checked that. The acceleration time, I did not measure it, but I think it's better than before, so I will check that. So max speed is done, acceleration time is done. We can go with gravity now, maybe. So let's remove this one and put gravity. So for gravity, because right now there is absolutely no gravity, so I will want to apply gravity to my character. So in my movement system, should I have a gravity? Should I have a gravity per entity? Yeah, why not? So let's create another float. Gravity. Float 3, gravity, okay. I will do it constant for now. I don't need to have a controllable gravity for my game in particular, so let's stick with what's necessary. So assume I may want to have not only vertical gravity, so let's put it outside of our overlay step and say, okay, we have a float 3 gravity, which will be mass, inverse of mass dot up times this is normal Earth gravity, but I'm not sure that's gonna be sufficient for it to have a feel on the character. Let's add in gravity. So last step. I will probably need to merge some of them at some point because it will be very, very long in the end, long method parameters in float. Okay, and the gravity. Let's actually decompose this one. Not this, yeah. Yes, because it's not unit length, so I need to decompose it. Var gravity direction equal to if I do the normalization, I'm already doing a square root, and if I do the length, I'm also doing a square root. So I should probably do so var. Let's create a method for that. There is no method in mass to decompose a vector. No, that doesn't decompose a vector. Okay, let's make one. Public static. There is no need for anything else. We can send back tuple. Like, let's send back void. We'll take in float 3 value, and we'll output float 3 direction and an out float magnitude. I needed the method name decompose. Good. So I want to take the mass length of the value. That will be my magnitude. And after that, I want to check if the magnitude is not null, because it can be negative. So not 0. Mass is infinite, none. Should I also check for that? What is it doing in the normalize safe? Let's copy a bit from Unity. So it's getting the length by doing the dot product. And then testing if the length is above some minimal number. Is the length the same thing as the dot product? No, the length is the square root of the dot product. Okay. So I think my only issue is that if it's 0, So if it's not 0, I can divide my components. So I can make direction.x equal to value x divided by magnitude, and repeat for y and z. What's happening? I'm missing something. Default value for direction. Yeah. Direction equal value. Default will be 0, in fact. If the length is 0, it makes sense to have the float 0 as a response for the magnitude. Okay, so I can now decompose my gravity into gravity direction and gravity strength. This one is a float 3 and this one is a float. Okay. And it will make sense in a minute why I'm decomposing my gravity into a direction and a strength, because I will just remultiply them. So let's do a bit of refactor actually. This one is computing the new position. Okay, we'll do the collision response later. Let's this one is actually handling the, so this is fixed. Is it fixed? Acceleration and deceleration, max speed logic. This one is deceleration, so that has nothing to do, and the max speed logic has been solved here. So that should be okay. If the input is not too small and the velocity is still positive, I'm trying to decelerate. Remove the debug log and let's call that refactor. Extract the method, handle movement. Okay, and I want to apply gravity also. So my new acceleration will be incremented by the gravity, and the gravity is the strength and direction times, so this is an acceleration. Do I need to multiply it by the delta time step? I don't multiply that here, so probably should not, or the gravity either. And if I do that, normally I should fall straight through the ground. So I need to trick the collision response and say that if, I won't use physics right now, but if y is below 0, let's try to just set it back to 0. So basically my floor will be 0. Actually, no, let's change something a bit. Let's make the floor at -1, -2. Okay. Just because I don't have the jump logic, so I can't see the gravity being applied. And my plane, I will lower it a bit to see if the character is falling. And once more, I have no player on the server. Socket error creation. Let's try again. This time I have one, and they do are falling down, but very slow. So the gravity is way too small. But they do stop at -2. Yes. Okay, so the gravity is working. And that's actually what I want here. If I increase the gravity, I'm lost in between my systems. Okay, let's multiply it by 3. Should be okay. If I want to jump in the player input, I need to get an event telling me that I'm jumping, a bool or something, but in netcode I don't think it's a bool. An input event. Yes, jump. And that input event should be set by my input system, which is here. Let's put it in another file. Refactor. There is a button. There should be something to move it to another file. Huh? Okay, never mind. Let's add a file. Let's call it player input system. Do it manually. Cut this, put it in the player input system. Okay, and you don't have any of the imports. That's okay. Actually, let's change this one and okay, and player input dot value RW jump set, and I set it if my input dot get key down key code space. I'm missing the if. Okay. So it will be set if the key was pressed, the spacebar was pressed. And now in my logic, still on the velocity, this one is the acceleration, and should probably extract that. Let's make a method for that. Refactor extract method. Oops. This one is clamping and zeroing out velocity. Clamp and zero out velocity. Clamp and zero out velocity. Okay. So yes, that's why I want to actually, let's not do it right now. I'm going too fast with the Control Z. That's why I want to have my gravity direction, because here the float 3 is both my vertical velocity and my horizontal velocity. And in fact, when I clamp my velocity, I want to clamp the horizontal velocity, because I still want to be able to have a higher vertical velocity, initial velocity for the jump, to be able to control the height of the jump. So we actually need to decompose the horizontal components from the vertical components. So let's do the decomposition first, and then we'll take care of the jumping logic. So this one decompose vector. So let's call something different for the project on plane. There is something like that. Vector 3 dot project on plane, but that's for vector 3, and I want the math version of it. And there is project, but not project on plane. So let's do a bit of thinking. If I have two vectors, so this will be my gravity direction, direction, and I have a current velocity which is somewhere like that, and I want to have the one that is perpendicular to that. So I want to project on the one that is below, but the one that I have is the gravity direction, which will be my up. So if I project to this one, and remove from the projection, so if I do my I need to do that on the velocity. So that's my velocity. So if I project that, if the velocity is 0, I need a project safe. My velocity onto my normal, so the gravity direction. So that will give me the projection of the velocity. So that's the vertical component, basically. That's the vertical half step velocity. Okay, so I have my gravity vector. Let's put the finger here. I have the gravity vector that is up. I have my velocity that is somewhere not horizontal already, so it's a bit inclined. So if I take this and project it onto the vertical onto the gravity vector, I get the vertical component. So if I take my original half step velocity and remove the vertical component, I will just get the horizontal one. So that's what I need to do. For the vertical one is this one, and for the horizontal half step velocity, I will get the original one minus the vertical one. Okay. And then I need to work with my horizontal velocity for this logic. So whenever I have half step, I need to put the horizontal one. Okay. And when I'm back here, I need to actually recompose it. So this one will be the horizontal plus the vertical one. This should take care of the decomposition, vertical and horizontal. Hello Vadim, sorry if I didn't see it earlier. Greeting, still can't make the normal prefab system accessible from any other system, for example as a singleton. I bake all prefabs and get entities where there is an enum type and the prefab entity itself. And here are the problems. So you want to be able to get to spawn any prefab basically. So you want to have like a sort of a dictionary or of a catalog of prefabs that you can spawn. So if you do a component with a dynamic buffer, like we said, you can store all the prefabs. You just need to reference them in a subscene through that, let's say, store or catalog. That's what I did for the tower defense tutorial. But then if you want to be able to call the issue is to know which prefab in the so that's why we said we would make an hash map, but the hash map, it's not really an hash map because the hash map can't be serialized, so it can't be baked, the hash map. You need another dynamic buffer to look through, or you need the dynamic buffer to have both the entity and the key. The operation can only be done with an update. Yes. Yes, so you can, yes, you can create the hash map. Let me go. So let's say you make a public struct prefab store I buffer element. So this one will contain a public entity prefab. You can make a public int hash or something like that. Create two dynamic buffer and then take them by index accordingly, but the problem is ease of use. For the hash map, I just write the prefab type. Dynamic buffer, it will not work. So how do you get your type for your prefab? Is it like an enum or the hash or the GUID of the prefab resource? Let me try to open the project from disk. Dot training. Oh, that's just the one. It's not the asset. This one is the asset. I haven't opened this one since a long time, but oh, there's a new version of Unity. The 6000.0.24 is live. I think it means that the map can only be created in an update. So maybe through like a reactive system or something like that. How do you do the link between the enum, which is your prefab type, and the entity itself? Because if you have the enum type at authoring, if you like have if you're baking another system, I can't get the queue in the onCreate method. Is it because the two systems are not created at the correct in the correct order? Because there is also the attribute create before and after. So maybe you just have to create your systems in the correct order. Make sure that all the systems that use the queue are created after the one that is owning the map or the queue or your resource. The other one is opening. Oof, let's use this layout so we don't get lost. So is it at least working? Let's go to the game menu. Seems to be working. Yes, okay. So where did I do the spawning? I did the spawning for the tower placement. This first spawning is just the enemies, and for the tower placement, what do I have? I have the authoring component. Actually open it in a new window. So the basic is I get a list of game objects and I bake that into a buffer. The buffer is just the entities normally, if it does want to open it. Components, tower prefabs. So we just have the entities. So if you have your enum, you could also have the public int type here. In France. I live in France. So you could have the type here. Now the question is, how do you access all of that from any other system? So if I look at my other systems, I'm getting the buffer singleton. So that's fine. You should be able to do that in the onUpdate. So you get your store of entities. And to find the one you want, you either go through all of them or you have the direct index that you want. To get the direct index, you can make at runtime. You could make another component for your prefab store that computes the map. So you would have another public struct index map or prefab type map. A component data. In there, you should be able to create a native public native hash map of int, which will be your type, and int, which will be the index of the entity in the buffer. And you can make a system for each. So you get the singleton. You get that singleton. You would need the entity itself. It's a bit more verbose to write down because you basically need to have the singleton entity corresponding to this buffer with a query, because I don't think the system API can get a singleton entity. Yes, I can get. Okay, so easier. I can get that singleton entity. And I could do that. Can I do that on create? I'm not sure if the singleton is created. If the singleton entity is created before or after the systems. That's an interesting question. To avoid having to do that every update. But you still have the dirty trick of doing that in another system, in an initialized group, and do a state enabled false. Once you have updated your map or created your map. Well, yeah, even better. You can create the map instead. You can create the map instead. Yes, that's even better. With int being the type and entity being the actual entity prefab. You can create that at runtime. But you don't want to do that on update, is that it? Because it doesn't matter if you do it on update. You can require for update this component. And once you have created your other component with the hash map, you would destroy that, you remove that component from the singleton entity. So it won't run again because the system requires the tower prefab to exist. So it will only update once. If that is your issue. Or try the, like I said, I'm not sure that the entities are created before the systems. That would be strange to me. You need to do all of that to yeah. So you need to do that before anything else that would use that component. So you can make your initialization yes, you can make the system that creates the map in the initialization group. So that would make sure that it's one of the first system to run. And even if it's not ready yet, you can make all your other system require the actual prefab map component. Because that's what you are using actually. So as long as this component doesn't exist, the other systems won't run. Just like here, I'm on create saying that, okay, for this system to run, I need to have the tower prefabs. If I don't have that, the update is not invoked. Let me remove my... So you could do the same thing with all other systems. And if you have too many systems, but they are grouped in a group, you can do that on the group logic also. You can require a component to update a group of systems. You've tried updating group type of baking system group and didn't work. No, the baking system group is just editor time. So the issue is that baking system groups are just when you build your game. Basically, it's in editor and it's what's serializing all the all the data into entities, subscenes and stuff like that. But since your map is a native container, the native container is not serialized. So it will not be part of the subscene or the build or any of the data that you will get after loading the entities. So the map needs to be created at runtime, and it needs also, don't forget, to dispose of the native hash map. So when you destroy your system that creates it, it should actually be an I cleanup component. So it should not be an I component data. It should be an I cleanup component data. That way, when you destroy the entity, that will be left on the entity and you can detect the fact that there is nothing else but this one. You can actually check that there is this component and not the simulate component, which is a component that's present on all entities. And you can then dispose of the map. Otherwise, you will have a memory leak. So you need to be very, very careful about native containers in components. Usually, it's pretty much a bad idea to have it. You should be able to work with things like buffer or work directly on. Yeah, you can add that to a component, but you need to be careful that it will not be disposed of automatically when the entity is destroyed. So keep that in mind. Where was I on my character controller? I was. All this so that later on, one subscene, you can have prefabs available to any subscene with entity prefab reference. Entity prefab reference is something else, no? There is no relation with that. Entity prefab reference, I think, is part of the content management of ECS. But for it to work, I believe you need to have the content build. And I'm not sure it's in a state that is very user-friendly. So, my character controller, I'm decomposing the horizontal and vertical velocity. Let's try it. I should still see the character fall. That was not a very good day weather-wise to come to France. Sorry. But I hope she enjoyed her trip. The character is no longer falling. And movement is very, very bad. But again, my character, my capsule are not present in the server. So what's the heck? Okay, so now they fell down and now they are moving. There seems to be some issues. They are not moving very fast. What's my maximum velocity? Ah. I hope you are not too impacted by these events. I'm sure she was better here in France than in Ukraine or near Russia or in Russia or wherever. So what did I mess up? Does it care about the direction of... Because my gravity is downward. No, it should not care about the direction of... Let's have a look again at what is happening. The vertical velocity seems to be okay. So that's a good point. Now, what's happening to my horizontal velocity? Vertical velocity is constant because I'm always applying the gravity and I'm snapping back the character. So that makes sense. If I move right, it's not the correct entity, of course. The velocity is going crazy. But my velocity is not clamped at the correct... On what am I doing the clamping? Projecting. And now the clamping is still happening after that. So I should continue the decomposition of this. I should make a new horizontal velocity. Velocity, okay. And the new horizontal velocity, I need to decompose the acceleration also. So I will also need to decompose the acceleration. I really need to work with separate components. So let's make another method. Public static void everything worked when initialization system group will have to give up access to the queue in the onCreate method, although I'm pretty used to it. Yeah, and again, same. Yeah, onCreate. Yeah, it's because the entity may not already be there. Yeah, you're right. So yeah. Yeah. How will we call that? So this one will decompose the XYZ by projecting so let's call that because I already have a decompose one. Or let's rename this one extract direction and magnitude. That's pretty clear. And actually, let's do same thing, extract horizontal and vertical components. We'll have a in float3 value and an out float2 horizontal. I need to decompose to project the input. Because right now it's projected. No, it's okay. Okay. Float to horizontal and out float vertical. Okay, and the logic is this one. Okay, I will say the horizontal is this one, the vertical is this one. I need the value, and I also need the up. Float3 up. That's an input. It's up or down, it doesn't really matter, but that's the vertical axis. In fact. Okay, and why are you not happy? Because I can't create a float3. Vertical. It's ready. But not. No, it's not necessarily X and Y. It can be three-dimensional, so I need to. So they are still float3s. Yes, they are still float3s. And that's also why I need to. So I don't need to project. So the input will be a bit different. I don't need to project it because otherwise I lose the magnitude, but I need to reorient it towards the horizontal plane. So if I do shrinks, this one will be two or three cross product. But here, if I do that, I have my extract components from this one. I take the float3 out Okay. For the horizontal, vertical, and the in gravity direction. Okay. And the comma. Okay. So I've done that for this one. I also need to do that for the acceleration. So that's horizontal acceleration. That's vertical acceleration. And I need to take the new acceleration. This one I don't need to decompose because I take it into account before decomposing the velocity. So that's okay. And now I can reach here, and for the new horizontal velocity, it will be the half step velocity plus 0.5 the new. I need to put the new keyword here. New vertical. So new horizontal. And that's the one that I want to clamp. So new horizontal velocity. Okay. I need to do the new vertical velocity also. New vertical velocity. Okay, and the acceleration. Okay, and now the half step can be gone. Because I'm not modifying it. And the new velocity can be the velocity half step, which I haven't modified since here. It's in there, and that's it. This one. Horizontal step velocity. This one can be modified. So I do need to have this line. And the new acceleration no, I don't. I don't because I'm already doing it here and here. So the new velocity is just the new horizontal velocity plus the new vertical velocity. And I am already taking into account the accelerations, also both the vertical and horizontal acceleration. So the new velocity is just that. And now I'm just clamping. So I need to refactor those stuff because it's refactor this, extract method, and this one will be reorient horizontal velocity along movement direction. Okay. And I don't really like to have that, so change it to void, change that to ref, and I should be able to modify it directly. This one is an in, and this one is an in, because I don't want to modify. And fix the typo, reorient horizontal velocity along movement direction. Okay. Back to here. That's good. Horizontal. So this one basically this one is handling movement also. What is it doing? No, this one is clamping movement velocity. That's what we do here. It's computing. So include that in there. Ref, sorry. In and in. And if I refactor that, compute and clamp horizontal velocity. Is that good? Let's do it like that, if that makes sense. Compute and clamp new horizontal velocity. Velocity. Okay. Again, oops. My fat fingers. That's what I want to take out. And no, that's not the thing I want to take out. This one is. So let's shuffle things around. Okay, so that's my out. And that's not actually an. So I don't have the out, in fact. Sorry. New horizontal velocity. Out, float 3. New horizontal velocity. Okay, I don't need to declare it, and I don't need to return it. Okay, back to this line. I need as an out float the the new horizontal velocity. Okay. Is the decomposition correct? Does it make sense? So that's for my magnitude, that's okay. For my gravity, it's okay. That's dummy check to not fall indefinitely, that's okay. The acceleration, in fact here the acceleration for the movement, it's the same thing. I should split vertical and horizontal. So let's do it. And actually extracting the new acceleration maybe is not necessary, because the new acceleration is fully computed. So it's just that the horizontal acceleration will be this one. The vertical acceleration will be this one. And the new acceleration which I will need at the end to save for next frame will just be the sum of both of them. New vertical acceleration. It's complaining because it's declared somewhere else. No. No, plus equal. Yeah, it's not plus equal because it's no longer the full acceleration, it's just the vertical component. So the addition comes back here, so it's okay. And for this one, the input, like we said, I need to orient the input on the horizontal plane. So that's something that I need to do here. And the input direction is only important at this stage. Why do I have both input and input direction here? Input direction. Okay, so to reorient something, do I have paint? I have paint, yes. Okay, let's break out paint. So let's say I have no, green, thank you. Blue, like that, and red, like that. Yay, programmer art. So these are my different components. Let's assume that my gravity is not straight. It's somewhere here. So here I have a right angle, and a right angle. But this one is somewhat inclined, let's say. Both here and in the other direction here. So when I receive my input, I naturally put it on the X and Y. So let's put purple. That's my natural input. But I want it to be somewhere like this. Because I'm basically shifting all by this angle. I'm confusing myself, so don't worry if you don't understand either. I know I already did this kind of math. And if I remember correctly, it was using the cross product. Because the cross product doesn't impact the magnitude of the initial vector. Actually, it's so I have my up vector. Let's say it's not straight up, but the gravity vector is like that. My input is indeed flat, or I consider it to be flat. So if I want to make a cross product of these two, I will get a vector that is also flat. And if I make a cross product of this new vector and this one, I will get a vector like that. So it's a double cross product. If I do mass cross input direction and gravity direction, I would need to create a small debug tool for that. Actually, I try. Let's cheat a little bit. Let's see if I have my weather. You know what? Let's not. Let's try first that the decomposition works. Here, the result will not change because my velocity, my gravity is still vertical. So let's worry about the decomposition of that later. Just focus on that working for now. So where are we at? What do we have? Still a socket error creation. I don't know why, but it seems to be failing when... Okay. So that's better. Is it going at the maximum speed? what is that? Vertical. Where are you going? Come back. I'm apparently no longer stopping. The maximum velocity is respected, but I'm no longer stopping, so there is some issue. With this. Because I'm using the verlet velocity and not the horizontal component, I think here. Let's try that out. If I just look at this. No, but the issue is here. I should take, so the verlet is just used for that. So here, in fact, I should take a float 3 horizontal velocity. And if I still have some horizontal velocity, I should normalize my velocity and okay, so here I need to decompose. I need to decompose in the first instance, because already here I need to have the, from the start, in fact, I should decompose my my acceleration. And my velocity, mainly my velocity, because the acceleration will be fully computed. Yeah. So I need to do the extraction on the verlet velocity. Let's extract the out float 3 current horizontal velocity. My naming is all over the place, so I need to standardize that a bit. Vertical, current vertical velocity. Current vertical velocity, and I need the vertical axis, which is the gravity direction. current. So for this one, I can use the full one, it doesn't matter. But here I will need the current horizontal velocity. To be able to compensate and stop my character. Already this should be better. Is there anywhere else where I use this one? I use it here. But that doesn't matter because I haven't modified it. It's fine. And I'm setting it here, so let's try again. What? There is something that is not clear for me is why whenever I restart, now it's working. It needs two starts. So now it's stopping correctly. It's a bit more jittery. Yeah, there is still something not good. First prefab. Vertical velocity. I'm not. So this is a problem. I'm not setting back the velocity to 0. So I should reset the vertical velocity whenever I'm falling or reaching the ground, let's say. That's the first issue. And this one is not being zeroed out correctly. So let's see if fixing the first issue solves the second one, just in case. So whenever I'm here, I should actually set the current vertical velocity back to 0. And now I am modifying it. So if I'm modifying it, it means that here I actually need to do the sum of the current and horizontal and vertical. Where was I here? Okay. Okay. And okay, so let's see if this fixes the first issue. Give it some time, I don't know. Maybe I'm going too fast on the start. No. I still this fail to patch locomotion details. Let's stop hot reload because I'm not really benefiting from it. Okay. Okay, so it's still jittery. At least the vertical velocity is okay. So now it's jittery on the horizontal velocity and it's bouncing back and forth when I'm stopped. So it seems that the issue is in this code. I'm computing the new acceleration based on my direction and the time I need to stop. So that's okay. But if my horizontal velocity or I remove this one. If I have no input, I want to stop in the given time to stop. Okay, but see, if I don't have this check on the velocity, when my velocity will reach 0, I will still try to apply this. So I do need. But these are squared, so these should be squared also. That maybe is the issue. Because I'm not validating this check. If the velocity squared horizontal is greater than epsilon. Yes. Let's try. And we'll see if hot reload is the issue of the first start. No, it's not. So there is something happening with my autoconnect, apparently. Okay, that's smooth. No, it's still moving. It's still bouncing around. It was not doing that before my decompositions. So this one is 0. If I stop pressing is 0, that's okay. epsilon is like a very, 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 very small number. Let's try a bigger number. Maybe the issue is maybe not here, but in the zeroing out. Compute and clamp. Let's try to be a bit more brutal on the zeroing out and see if the acceleration is still triggered. Let's do the first start that doesn't work. Doesn't work. And instantly work. Okay. And you are happy now. So my issue is here. Maybe I should not square this because it's already such a small number. Is there another number? That's too big. Let's just put epsilon, revert back to epsilon for the other ones. Because they seemed to be working fine. Already midnight. Fail. And good. No, jittery. It's like 0.0 something. What dynamic value should I use? Because I don't want to put just like 0.1. I don't feel like it's something that's gonna work for every situation, since epsilon is not working for every situation. because basically the idea is to say if I'm slowing down, I don't want to apply deceleration that is so important that I'm going backward, because otherwise I would do it bouncing a ping pong match. So how much is too much? How much is too much? The velocity verlet is screwing with my brain. Because if it's there is this half step velocity something, because otherwise I could just take my current velocity, divide it by the time step, and check if it's bigger than the... Let's do that. Let's try that. If I so let's take my horizontal velocity. I have that length squared. I do have the time step here that I'm using here. Or I could check. Assuming constant acceleration, if I keep applying the full acceleration to my velocity, do my velocity have the opposite signs? Or I need to compute the var required deceleration to stop. So if I wanted to stop, this normalize is doing a square root. Yes. Let's do square roots. Velocity magnitude. So I have that square root. Okay. If my velocity magnitude is divided by the time step, so that's how much I would need to actually stop. But here it's not computing the acceleration, it's the velocity. I'm mixing stuff up. Here I should move forward, move in the direction at the given acceleration, except if I have no input. And if the speed is still positive. In that case, I should here have the horizontal velocity divided by the time step that I don't have. So it's here that I should apply the logic of brake as much as possible, but not too much. Basically. I need the time step. Okay. To do a fix smooth stop. I think I will put the night on it, think about it, because it's late and I have to go to work tomorrow. So we did do good progress, I think. A lot of refactoring, but we do have gravity in place. We do have movement in place. We fixed the synchronization issue between the server and the client. And we have started to get the jump input. We have made it so that we can change the direction of the character easily, let's say, and not have to so slippery of a character. So that's gonna be good for tonight, I think. One thing I'm still not clear on. Okay, I have a new file for the source control, which I cannot add to the source control because it has a plus file, so it's already added. And I did do modification on these ones, but they are not showing as modification. Do I need to check out each file I work on before I work on them? Like in all the SVN Tortoise and stuff like that? I'm afraid of checking it out now because I did do modification on them. And I don't want to lose that. I think we'll revert back to Git because I really don't understand how this works. So it's on my computer, it should be safe enough. I will leave it at that tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. hope you enjoyed the time spent with me. If you want to support the channel, you can like the video on YouTube. You can also use the affiliate links. They are in the description, bio, and everywhere. And if you don't want to pay anything, don't want to buy anything, you can also just watch the YouTube videos of the channel, the previous live streams, the full dots tutorials, to help me reach the thresholds for the monetization. So that would be a great help. And share the videos, share the content with other fellow game devs if you think it's interesting. So thank you again. I will see you next Wednesday for the next episode of the stream, and hopefully we'll be able to solve this issue and start on the proper jump mechanic to control the height of the jump, the length of the jump also based on the maximum velocity, and also control the profile curve of the jump by shifting the symmetry of the jump, making the character take more time to reach the height of the jump than to get down. And I also want to use the drawing debugs to show basically the different inputs and velocities to help start debugging the character controller. So thank you again for staying with me, staying with this painful development, let's say, and helping me through it. So see you in the next session on Wednesday, same time,